Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and we hope you had, and there's Fahe. She jumped in the picture there at the last second. Great timing, Fahe. Doing phenomenal. But no, we are excited to be back with you after a great 4th of July weekend. I don't know about you, Josh, but I really enjoyed my 4th of July. It was kind of a way to soothe my pain from losing a playoff game the week prior. So that was fun. I actually got to celebrate it and celebrate America in Hungary with a bunch of Americans, which was like the first time I've really been able to do that. So had some good old mac and cheese and pulled pork. Just like the most amazing American meal in Hungary. It was phenomenal. But that's what I did for, you know, 4th of July. Josh, how was your 4th of July and how many fireworks blew up in your hand?
So the fourth I did work and they got us burgers and fries at
That's
work
so nice.
for everybody that had to work. And then the evening I did get to watch a fireworks show over in
There you go.
Norwalk. The city put together a bunch of extra money for the 250th, and my fiance came up and we watched that show. It was
That's
kind of
nice.
wild. We were watching it at the fairgrounds. That's where they were launching them at, and just people were bringing their own random stuff that they were launching off, and just lighting stuff and tossing it in
So,
front of
so
them. And it's
America.
like, dude, there's people that are like sitting right next to you, and you're like letting this stuff go off. I don't know. It was just not the crowd that I've ever watched fireworks with. So that was interesting.
Just America, man. Just America.
Yeah. More recently, literally less than 30 minutes ago, I'm sitting here relaxing in my living room, waiting to record this show, and I hear like this cat just screaming outside over and over again. So I peek through the blinds of my front window, and there's these two cats, Ben, like 2 feet apart, like in this standoff. Their tails are rattling like rattlesnakes, and one's like yelling at the one, and the other's yelling at the other. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we got a little kitty standoff out here. I wonder who's gonna make the first move. And I sat there and watched for about 15 minutes. Nothing happened except just a bunch of that. And then finally, there was a gray one and a brown one. The gray one just darts into the woods across the street. And the brown one just kind of sits there like, wait, what? For about 10 seconds, then just chases after him out into the woods. So it was anticlimactic,
You're
but
getting
that's,
old, Josh. Like you're cat watching. You're
I
getting
am
old,
cat
Josh.
watching. That is
You need
yeah,
to get
that's
married.
where we're at today.
You need to get married.
We will be getting married this fall. Or I'll be getting married this fall, I should say, to my fiance Taylor. But yeah,
Yeah.
for now, I've just been enjoying a
Cat
relaxing day
watching.
off because I worked 16 hours yesterday. That was what I did.
Dude, you just don't know the off switch. Like we got to teach Josh. All in the comments, we need to teach Josh the off switch. Maybe he'll learn one day. Nah. He should come switch with me. You come do teach teenagers for 8 hours and it'll feel like 16 hours by the time you're done, to be honest with you. But no, we have a big show today, Josh. We talked about it before the episode. We joke how every time we do these like previews, because we talked about last week how we're doing previews starting this week because we have to, because football season's a month away. Um, it's always funny because every time we start these previews, it's always when a lot of news is happening and we just never have time to fill in everything else. So I feel like it's the case again this year, Josh. Every year it's like this.
We got a handful of NBA trades and signs we could discuss, like the big extension the Cavs gave Donovan Mitchell, or that 6-team trade that just
Smart.
happened. We got Wimbledon tennis going on. We just got the All-Star picks announced for baseball. But the only thing we're really going to spend a little bit of time talking about today is the United States Men's World Cup update because,
Collapsing?
but I mean, it really was a collapse. At this point, you guys know that the men's season is over. They reached the round of 16, which is farther than any team in recent memory from the United
Yeah.
States has made. But I'm sure Ben
Sad.
got to watch some highlights. I sat down and watched the whole game. That was the only World Cup match I actually
That's what
sat
happened.
down to
That's
watch.
why. It's because of you. It's
It,
you.
it
It was
very
your
well
fault.
could be. You
The
always would like to.
non-soccer guy.
You'd always like to see your team lose to a better team, or just
Yeah.
you gave your
But not
best
like
effort and it
that.
wasn't
But not
enough.
like
But
that.
that just wasn't. The main
No.
headline going into it was that Flo's red card penalty got reversed,
Rescinded. Yeah.
so he got to play, but it didn't really matter. We had only one goal over there. Pulisic left the game early with an injury, and the defense just was making so many mental mistakes out there. It was
Injury.
just the same thing I was hearing from everybody that actually is in the soccer space, way farther than even Ben and I. Just that,
Yeah.
it was. It was a collapse. It was like a JV versus varsity match. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of my thoughts just sitting there watching it, is
Yeah.
just let down. I'll let you add in anything
No,
that
I,
you
I
took
just,
away.
I don't know, man. I just kind of feel like I don't even know how to put it. I feel like there was the team again. If Jared was on here, he could kind of give us a better understanding. But I think even just from my conversation with him and with other people leading up to the game, it was like this excitement, like, hey, we can handle Belgium. I think that we have a good chance, especially with Flo coming back. Like, it's a perfect opportunity. But I think it once again just shows, not that Belgium's the best team in the world, but it's Europe is just so much more prepared for these kind of things. I mean, if you ever look at our friendlies, like we always play these teams in the Caribbean and South America or in Central America and like I've always said, and I've said this for a couple years, like why not just come to Europe and you have literally a three friendly during the friendly, period. Usually there's like two games during the friendly period. You come and play Croatia. You go and then play Spain as your friendlies, right? You actually challenge yourself against the team. And again, I'm not going to put this all on Pulisic because I know that he could have been injured. It's just there's been now a pattern, and Josh, we've talked about this with him that he just doesn't seem to be ready for these big matches. He
He
tends
actually
to
took
only
a lot of time off before the World Cup to be
exactly.
ready and healthy for
And,
this.
and, and so that's why for me, and like I've also heard other things, like he doesn't really talk to reporters, like his family and other people kind of keep him isolated. Like if you think about it, he hasn't really been like when he was in Borussia Dortmund in Germany, he was really good. He went to Chelsea, had a good start, then had a really bad finish, then went to AC Milan, and he's kind of been so. Again, I'm kind of excited for this next generation, Josh, because there's a really good young generation that's between the ages of like right now, like 17 and 23. And it's a great generation that I think just needed some more time to develop. And I think it's going to be opportunity there. It shows that the U.S. is not quite where they think they are when it comes to soccer. But I think Landon Donovan brings up a good point. There's no young kids that can afford to play soccer. Travel soccer or this, travel soccer stuff they do when you're a kid, you're paying $4,000 like a month to do this stuff. When in other countries, like in here in Hungary, you pay a little bit of a fee, but you're basically playing from the age of 6 years old all the way up to age 20, and you're not even in a great like place for soccer. But if you look at Spain, they have grassroots stuff. Africa, these kids are learning from the very bottom and they learn how to grow and to get better. In South America is the same way. I just don't think that America will ever be at the level that for some reason Americans sometimes think we are, but we're not, right? Like I saw the joke that, hey, let's bring Belgium in the SEC and play some football. I'm like, yeah, I get that. It's funny. And it's been funny every time I say it. But at this point, it's just getting annoying because it's like, we should be good at soccer. Like we have amazing athletes. We should be good at soccer, and we're just not right now.
Yeah, I think that speaks to the youth sports business that is in the United States compared to some of the other places.
Yeah.
Is the price for entry is just so
It's
high. Like
ridiculous.
baseball, especially with all their travel
Basketball's
tournaments that
huge.
are going state to state. Basketball, yeah, I mean AAU is the one that everybody knows about, but there's definitely more. And soccer, I mean, like you said, in other countries, you're starting off young. All you need is a ball. You don't need any other really high equipment prices or anything. And the
No.
grassroots movement of playing, like your city has a club and you play like other cities sometimes
Yeah.
is the case. Like it's just a totally different structure. Whereas over
Like
here,
I
you
never,
got to fork
well,
a
I
ton of
think
cash over.
on top of that, it's like I never played travel baseball, Josh. But it hurt me when I got to high school because I was the only kid on the team, and that's why I played JV for 2 years, is because I was the only kid that didn't play travel baseball at some point. Because I just my like we weren't really like that wasn't my parents didn't really want to invest in that, and I understood that. Like, and I still had fun playing, county ball and little league and pony league and like those leagues. But like those are like non-existent now, Josh. Like you don't hear many kids playing little league anymore, because
Right.
they're never going to get recruited. And like I just wish there was more college coaches that would like just go to high schools and look at those kids that, hey, they might not have the ability to go play travel ball, but they're dang good ball players. Because I think there's a lot of them out there. I think it's the same with soccer. There's a lot of kids out there. My cousin Brad's a great testimony of that. He never played travel soccer. He just played at high school and probably could have went anywhere he wanted to play college soccer. Decided not to play college sports or go to college. But like that's the kind of thing we need to see more of is a kids that just work their butt off, but they don't feel the incentive. Because what if I work the butt off? I'm not going to be looked at as high as a guy that plays for the Mamba Academy of Soccer Facilities. Like, you're not gonna make it anywhere. And unfortunately, thank goodness football's not that way yet. I have a feeling it's going to end up being that way before too long.
Yeah, well, it's just so hard to travel for football because of how much of a toll your
Exactly.
body takes week to week. So I think that one's always, with the exception of like these 7-on-7 like spring football
Or
leagues, I
flag
think we're going to
football.
see mostly just high school as the scene over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about everything that we really want to talk about as far as soccer
Yeah.
goes. We'll go ahead and dive in first to the NFC West, the division, of course, that has the defending Super Bowl champ Seattle Seahawks in it,
Yeah.
along with the LA Rams, Arizona Cardinals, and the uh, San Francisco 49ers in it. So,
Do you want to give our listeners a little bit of an idea for those that don't know, like how we do our previews, just so they kind of understand?
yeah, yeah, just for sake of time, since we're trying to cover so much in like an hour to an hour and a half, we're not going to be necessarily deep diving into each team like you probably can find from some other places, but we are going to highlight some of the key additions, the key losses, look at some schedules, some matchups, and try to predict how we think that the teams will fall as far as first, second, third, fourth. Um, so that'll be like how we go into it.
Hmm.
Same for the Big 12 when we get to that one too, and that one will probably be even more quick just because of how many more teams there are to
Yeah.
cover in a conference than just the division. But I guess right off the bat, Ben, I mean this was a really good division last year.
Very good.
49ers
Yeah.
were good. The
Except the
Rams
Cardinals.
almost made it. Yeah, the Cardinals were that one outlier. It's like, oh man, you won 3 games, and we'll get into it. I think that they might not even win
Yeah.
that many this year again.
Yeah.
But uh, looking through at least the other three. Uh, I don't really like Seattle's offseason. They lost a
No, I don't
handful of
either.
key guys. They lost Kenneth Walker, Boye Mafe, Kobe Bryant, Reek Woolen.
Tariq Woolen. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they kept some guys like Josh Jobe and Josh Jones. I thought that getting Jadarian Price in the draft was interesting. They did have some guys in the secondary like Rodney Thomas from the Colts and Noah uh, Igbinoghene, I think is how you say his name, from Washington. So I just don't really like their offseason. And then the schedule's kind of tough too. They got to host the Patriots week one right off the bat. We'll get the Super Bowl rematch. They also host the Chargers, Chiefs, Bears, Cowboys, Giants. They'll have road games at Washington, Denver, Philly, and Carolina. Uh, I don't think by any means that they're going to have any crazy slump and fall into like a losing record, but it is hard to maintain when you're, the hunted, and when you don't have as dominant of an offseason as you need to. I could see the Seahawks maybe just going into like a 9 to 10 win season. They're not my pick to win the division. I'll actually go ahead and tell you that next. But I figure we start with the Seahawks since they're the defending champs. But what's your take on the
Yeah.
Seahawks right now, and how do you see them going into 2026?
I mean, I think the biggest loss for them, I think Walker's a big loss. Like I think when anytime you take a proven running back and you change him in for a rookie running back, it does cause some problems. Like we kind of saw it. Like if you look at the Raiders with Genti's amazing, but like he still needed to learn the NFL, right? And so that's like an interesting thing for me. But the bigger one is just Tariq Woolen a little bit. When you have like a really good corner that's like he might not be the top five corner, but he's a corner that can give you results. Like, and I believe, yeah, he's with the Eagles now, which again, another team, you're like, why would you like that? Just isn't, you can't let that happen, right? I think the interesting one too is then you lose him, you're like, okay, well, that's fine. But then you lose Kobe Bryant, who is another really good safety to another NFC team. I agree with you in the sense like I just don't know what they were doing because for me it's like you got Jadarian Price, okay, but is he just a younger, cheaper version of Kenneth Walker? Is he? I mean, he wasn't even the star running back on his own team. So like again, I just that to me always confused me what they were doing with that, especially when I saw Kenneth Walker wasn't going there. And I have a friend that's a Seahawks fan, so like I work with him at school, and he's going to tell me all this is like crap, and I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm like, okay, yeah, okay.
I mean, this
Uh,
is all the losses, but at the same time, you still bring back Sam Darnold, you still bring
no,
back
yeah,
Jackson
of
Smith and
course,
Jigba.
yeah, of course. And again, I'm not saying that it's just
But this was
when
a team that was dominated by
yes,
the defense, and these are
yes,
some tough guys to lose on defense.
but I think even on top of that, it's a team that they won against a very against a Patriots team that probably wasn't a great team. Like they were a good team, but they weren't a great team. And I think they got some blessings with the way the dominoes fell in the NFC. Again, I don't know if again I can't take away from the fact they won a Super Bowl, but it's just like for me it's just kind of like I don't know if what they lost if they were able to add more to equal what they lost.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, I could see them going like 9-8, 10-7, somewhere in that range. What would be your record prediction?
I mean I could see them go like 11-5 or 11-6, sorry. Um, I could see them going to that sense. I think 10 to 11 wins is like where I got them because I still think offensively they're going to be very good. I think Jasmine Jigba, when you put him in the slot, is probably the most dominant slot receiver in the game right now. I don't think it's close. And I think defensively they'll be good, but yeah, yeah, it's something. But should we give our like our rankings and then go through each team there? Would that be to hype it up a little bit? Give our
Sure.
thoughts. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Who's your pick to win the division?
So for me, it's easy. I got the Rams winning it all or winning the division. I think the Miles Garrett trade, I think, even boosted them a little bit more because that just gives them like the dude now on the defensive side. And plus you have a now I don't know what now I don't know what you're gonna do if Matt Staffy gets hurt because of what we've heard is the backup quarterbacks are not doing great right now. So I don't know what's going on with that. Um, so that's gonna be interesting. So I have them finishing first at like 12. I have them like a 12-5, like a 12-5 season, 13-4, something like that. And then I have the Seahawks and I have the 49ers kind of finishing in that weird spot of like 9-8 or 10-7. Just kind of that weird, like could make the wild card. Don't really know. And then I have the Cardinals, which we'll talk about in a bit. I have them finishing 2-15. So, and last place. So that's my rankings.
Yeah.
We'll go through the teams here in a second.
Rams is my pick too. It's who I thought was going to win the Super Bowl last year, and I think they did what the Seahawks should have done and got even
Exactly.
better in the
100%.
offseason. I got the Seahawks going second. The Niners, we'll get into it. I think they're starting to fade away. And then the Cardinals is who I do have last. But we'll go ahead and discuss the Rams since we're in
Yeah,
unison on
absolutely.
that. Even before the Myles Garrett trade, I thought them going out and getting
Same.
Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson from KC was what you had to
Absolutely.
do, which is why I didn't like what they did in the draft with going and getting Ty
Yeah.
Simpson, preparing for after Stafford right now, and then
When you got
going and
next
getting
year's
Max
draft, by
Clare
the
in the
way,
second round. Say that
wait,
again.
when you got next year's draft, which is going to be loaded with quarterbacks, like
Yeah, like
couldn't just wait a year.
right now, that move just sounds like what the Packers did, gain Jordan Love when you got Aaron Rodgers in the building. Like you're trying to win right now. Like we'll worry about life after Stafford once he's gone, but right now you're in a window
Well, it's
and you
like what
can't
you've
waste
always
that
said.
window.
You've always said this. If you have to take a step back, take a step back. Like let have one bad year. It's okay if that means you get a quarterback that's a better one in a
Yeah,
sense.
we've seen the Rams like in this whole new Sean McVay era, whether it's him driving this or not, they've been pretty much all in. They don't care about the draft picks. They'll trade those draft picks to go and get guys, just like they
Yeah.
did getting McDuffie and Myles Garrett and like other superstars that they've brought over, Jalen Ramsey. Uh, I mean, the list just goes on of guys that they've gotten
Hmm.
via trading first and second round picks. That they're not looking for the future. They're all about winning in the now, and they finally got
Yeah.
that Super Bowl. And there was like a little bit of a hangover after that, but they got uh, right back into it, and they're in contention once again. So doing that and going and getting Ty Simpson, and then I mean, we'll see what kind of player Max Clare ends up being in the NFL. I just thought there was they could have done the draft better than what they did. So that's really my only negative on the offseason. And then, of course, you got to count Jared Verse as a loss, but the Miles Garrett is more than an upgrade, and they'd gladly take that right
Yeah.
now in
Absolutely.
this now
Absolutely.
window. So I love the roster right now. They're probably going to be my Super Bowl pick when we get into more of a league wide after we go through the divisions. The one thing that I'll say is going to be tough. This could be what breaks them. after week 12, depending on how many injuries they got and how broken they are, because the NFL is a long season and no one ever is healthy forever. After their bye week in week 12, which already is a little later, then they got this gauntlet of playing the Chiefs, then they're at the Niners, then they host the Cowboys, then they're at the Seahawks, they host the Buccaneers, and then they host the Seahawks. So it's a really tough stretch to end. But
Yeah.
at the beginning, at least, they do host the Giants, the Bills, the Chargers, some of the tougher games, but then they got some tough road games at Denver and Philly. But when you got a team like the Rams, I expect you to win most of those big time games.
Oh,
So
I agree. 100%. 100%.
yeah, yeah, I'm safely, I'd say I'd be shocked if the Rams won anything less than 12 games, but I think they could go out and get
Yeah, I agree.
13 or
And
14.
the only other thing I would say is they did lose their tackle, Rob Havenstein. Um, I I think that's an interesting one. Just again, Stafford is old. Like, let's be honest, he's old. So,
Hmm.
um, that's what I'm interested to see because they got Ty Simpson. Do you trust Ty Simpson if Stafford gets hurt? And that's good. The only change if Stafford gets hurt, this whole thing changes, and I could see them finishing like 7-10, right?
That's the other thing.
So,
Yeah, Matthew Stafford
yeah.
at the MVP level he was last year is very important to this all
Yeah,
working out too.
exactly. So if that works out, they'll be fine. And I think that leads us into the 49ers, which, like you said, they're a team that is kind of on the decline. I mean, not really yet, but they definitely are. As I would say, the exhaust is starting to get bigger and bigger out of the engine, and the engine is slowly starting to deteriorate. They have not changed the oil in a while. And I think one of the biggest notifications of that is the fact that I think the amount of like skill guys that they just seem to be like not caring about anymore. I don't know. I just feel like the 49ers just have stopped caring about good skill guys. Um, they do add, a few different additions in a sense. You you add Romello Height in the draft. I think, yeah, he was in the draft. That was where they added him. And for me, again, another guy that you add that helps that defense. But my worry is the offense, to be honest with you, Josh. Like, is Brock Purdy still like the guy that you think he is? And like, Kittle is hurt pretty much every other year now. It seems like he's always banged up. Your receiving core seems to be depleting every once in a while because of just injuries and moving on from guys. And so offensively, I'm interested to see what they do. And defensively, they're always going to be good. I'm just curious to see how they will be this season with obviously Robert Sala leaving. That changes things all the time. So for me, that's why the 49ers at like that 9-win spot. I think they can get over 500 and be a better than 500 team. I just don't think they have what it takes to really make any run at all.
Well, like we were just talking about the Rams, you want to talk about how important it is to cash in the window. I mean, the 49ers had that window like right
Oh,
around that
100%.
that 2000 like 18, 19, early 20s right there where they had so many guys that were like the best at their position, you could argue. You had prime Nick Bosa, prime
You
Chris
still have
McCaffrey,
CMC, I guess. Yeah.
Prime Trent Williams, prime Fred Warner. Like the list just went on. And that skill group with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle, like it was quite a squad to have. And right now, those guys are starting to age. They're starting to get hurt. Like we're seeing Christian McCaffrey's kind of the same way every other. Last year was one of his more healthy seasons, but Kittle, can you really count on him with that Achilles right now? Nick Bosa only played 3 games last year. Trent Williams, I still think is one of the best tackles in the league, but he's still like
He's
36 or
aging, man.
37 years old right now. You got Dre Greenlaw back to pair with Warner, but that defense, it was really bad at rushing the passer last year, and I don't know if they
Absolutely.
did enough in the offseason to address that. Uh, and maybe that this window's starting to fade, Ben, because like we're seeing the repercussions of all those picks that they gave up for Trey Lance, and he's not even on the team, or you like fail seemingly with a pick like Ricky Pearsall in the first round. Like, granted, he was recovering from a gunshot wound that first year, but even last year, like, I don't know if there was still like some lingering effects from that, but still would like to see him do a little bit better in year 2 than what he did. So there's you brought in Mike Evans, you lost Jawan
Yeah, I
Jennings,
forgot
that
about
was
that.
another
Yeah,
one.
brought in
So
Mike
that's
Evans.
a
Yeah.
it could be a net positive there. We'll see what Jennings does with his new team. But Evans, has got to be one of the most consistent receivers in the NFL. this will really be the year that we'll find out how good Brock Purdy is because I think a lot of his success and I think everybody would agree with me was keen on that defense being good, but also just everybody around him. Like you almost could have thrown anybody in there and they would have done well, but this is like one of those first seasons that like the team's success is going to ride on Purdy, and I don't know if he has the skill set to be a guy that you win because of. Uh, so for those reasons, I mean, they got some tough home games with the Broncos, Washington. We'll see what the Vikings are like in the Eagles. They're at the Chiefs, Chargers, Giants, Cowboys, Falcons. I think it's kind of like a middle of the pack schedule as far as
Mhm.
toughness goes, but I just think the 49ers window's fading right now, and I got them finishing third. Uh, it could be like in that sub 500, like dare I say 7, 8 wins. I don't know. I just don't know about this
Yeah.
49ers team right now.
Oh, I agree, 100%. And that leaves us into the favorite of all
Yeah.
teams to talk about. Team with the most
So,
problems, probably in the NFL.
yeah, what the Cardinals win 3 games last year?
Yeah. They won't win 3 games this year, I don't think.
I don't
I
think they
don't think they
will.
will.
It's the they got well, a couple highlights first off. So Mike LaFleur, who was the offensive coordinator for the Rams last year, is taking over as head coach this year. And he was going to have James Conner, Trey Benson, Tyler Algier as his running back room, and they went ahead and had Jeremiah Love, which, as good as Jeremiah Love is, I don't know if that's who you should have taken third overall, just because we've seen running backs not really
Trent
be
Richardson
franchise changing pieces. Well, it's not that everyone always turns into Trent Richardson. We've seen Saquon Barkley
just we're
do
hurt,
good,
man.
and
It's just we're hurt as
actually,
Browns fans.
yeah, yeah, we've seen some top 10 running backs do good, but I just don't know if that was the move right there. And quarterback is still up in the air. They got rid of Kyler Murray, finally moved on from him. Jacoby Brissett is holding them hostage right now in some kind of contract
Which is
standoff right
hilarious, by
now.
the way, which is 100% so funny.
It is
Like,
because he wasn't even good. And
no,
then Carson Beck, they drafted in the third round.
which we know how
That
he goes. He does.
Yeah, this is the quarterback situation with the Cardinals right now. So Gardner Minshew is also in that room, I believe.
He's going
Let
to
me go.
start. You watch this. He's 100% going to be the starter this year. You can see
It,
it.
it, he could end up being that guy. I mean, all three of these guys could probably start in some spots, but let me go ahead and read the Cardinals roster to you and tell you why they absolutely won't win more than 3 games because this first 13 games is absolutely insane. You got at the Chargers, host the Seahawks, at the 49ers, at the Giants, host the Lions, at the Rams, host the Broncos, at the Cowboys, at the Seahawks, versus the Rams, at the Chiefs, versus Washington, host Eagles. Then you finally get a bye in week 14, Ben, and then they give you the soft cupcakes of the Jets at the Saints, host
Dude,
the
13
Raiders, and then you
straight games is ridiculous before a bye. That's just
before a bye, but
awful.
then it's like it's all hard games. Like I thought the way the
Dude, they're going
schedule
to
is
go
supposed
0
to
and
work is
thirteen, man. They're going to
I
go 0
thought
and
the
13.
I thought the way the schedule was supposed to work is if you were bad last year, you get an easy enough schedule.
Holy
And
shnikes.
yeah, that's a tough one.
They're going to get
They,
freaking Dante Moore. He's going to fall right in their laps.
Dante Moore just might fall right into the Cardinals' laps, but there's just not really a whole lot of exciting things going on in Arizona right now. This is going to be a really hard first year. I guess the one thing to, I guess, check is how creative LaFleur gets with the running backs because there is a good amount of talent in that room. It's just who's protecting them and who's throwing to, open up that run game. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So that is the NFC West. We're in
Yeah.
unison as far as how 1 through 4 will rank. Looks like you're a little higher on the Seahawks than I am. I'm a little lower on the 49ers than you are, but for the most part, pretty on point. The Big 12 conversation is going to be interesting, though. And might I just say to start right here, for the 30th year of Big 12 football, it is now the Monster Energy Big 12 football, as we
Don't
just
even get
found a few
started.
days
Do not
ago.
even get me started.
For what seemed like
Oh
a
my
small
gosh.
price of $20 million, Monster Energy will have their logo patched on every single team's
And
jersey.
it doesn't even go with the colors. It's going to be the ugly
You're gonna have
green.
that green M on a black and red Texas Tech jersey, a black
Like
and
a
red
purple on a
Bearcats
purple
jersey,
Kansas State jersey, a
a purple
purple
Kansas State, and orange Oklahoma State. Like it
Oh,
just I
So
already hate logos
gross.
on jerseys as it is for businesses, like these sponsorship
Uh,
logos. But when each school kind of gets to do their own, you can pick one where the colors kind of go along with it, right? Like that's
Dude,
why the Marathon
the
gas station
only way
logo
this
doesn't look so
works,
bad on Cleveland's baseball jerseys,
the
for
only way,
example.
the only way it's going to look good, okay, the only way
You got to
is
do
if
the
they
gray
allow,
M on the white can.
or what I'm saying is if they let them, if because Monster has so many colors, if they let them choose the M that goes on there, then I will
Ooh.
be okay with it. But if
They
they
do have a
can't choose
purple
the color,
monster, for
yeah.
example. They got a white monster, a green one, a blue one, a
Well, also
red
it is funny
one.
with the marathon thing you mentioned about the Guardians because Marathon's actually located in Findlay, Ohio. So it's very funny how on the other side of the state they decide to sponsor Guardians, but that's besides the point. I
Yeah,
don't
like
understand that
the
whole.
local aspect I kind of prefer with sponsorships too, and it just worked out that Marathon's local to Ohio, but also has the red and blue color scheme.
Yeah. So I don't know. Let's be honest, this Big 12 conference is such a lost cause anyway. So I mean it's just like the Wild West. Like literally it's the Wild West.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and get into it. I think that there's four teams right now that are contending to win it, and then there's like this huge middle of the
It's
pack,
huge.
and then maybe you got like three bottom feeders. So right off the bat, let's just go ahead and talk about Texas Tech first. And we've already said our pieces about Sorsby, so we don't really need to get into that.
No.
But even still, like when they got Sorsby, their over under win total in Vegas was like 11 and a half, and even without him, they're still 10 and a half. There's a lot of reasons for that, and I'll get into it. They got 65% of their returning production back, which ranks 12th nationally, and 60 plus percent is coming back on offense and defense, so it's very even. Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams rushed for nearly 2,000 yards last year and 20 total touchdowns. They're adding USC transfer Quentin Joyner, who averaged 7.6 yards per carry when he was last on the field, to that running back room. Bryce Pollock is back. He had 5 picks in the secondary last year. And they also got a pretty easy enough strength of schedule. Houston, Arizona State, Baylor, and TCU are going to be the tougher games that they play. Uh, and then they also had another really good transfer class, Ben. I think that class ranked sixth on 247 with 22 more guys coming in. So they already retained a lot of the talent from last year's team that went to the deep in the well, not deep in the playoff, but to the quarterfinal. And then they add guys like Adam Trick from Miami, who had 8.5 sacks, Miami, Ohio specifically. And Malcolm Simmons, who was a receiver at Auburn, actually averaged more yards per catch that I saw than Cam Coleman. And they got three returners on the offensive line, plus they add a five-star true freshman Felix Ojo and Jordan Lynch, transfer from Louisville. So I think that there's all the reason for Texas Tech to be a heavy enough favorite to win this conference again. But you best believe as long as this current regime is in here, McGuire, the AD, and the president, I'm going to be rooting for them to go 0 and 12 every freaking season for trying to ruin the sport.
100%. And it's not even the fact that they tried to like let him play. It's the fact that they didn't want to take ownership to what they did. That's the thing. Yeah, I have Texas Tech winning this conference. I think yes, there is like a top three teams, but I think it's like a very big gap between Texas Tech and the next one. The reason I say that is it's just the money talks, man. Like when you can go out and get the guys you want and you get different guys of different talent levels, different fits, it just works. And I know we'll talk about Iowa State, but I think these are like teams that are on like completely different paths right now. And I think Texas Tech is in their window. We talk about windows, like Ohio State, the Georgias, the Alabamas, like they'll always be good. I think Texas Tech is in their window because we know how it is in Texas. If you're not winning championships, then they're probably going to pull their money at one point. So I'm very, very curious to see how that goes. But yes, I'm with you. I wish they would lose every game, just the way they try to ruin football. But um, look, they're a talented team that has a very, I think, underrated defense. I think that's what's going to keep them winning a lot of Big 12 games because a lot of other teams have good offenses but not great defenses. At the end of the day, I think Texas Tech is that team that wins the conference.
Yeah, they lost, of course, J Jacob Rodriguez on that defense, and then can't remember the guy's name, David Bailey.
Yeah,
That's
Bailey.
it. Yes, and Lee Hunter, like a couple big guys on that front seven front. So we'll see how the new guys plug in and play over there. But just to give you an idea of how far ahead Texas Tech was from the pack last year in the Big 12, in 3 games combined against Utah and BYU, they won by a score of 97 to 24.
Phew. Yeah.
So without further ado, let's go into BYU next, who I think has maybe the second best chance. And they've been consistent, 23 and 4 over the last 2 seasons. And last year, of course, their 2 losses were to Texas Tech, and the games weren't even close. But they bring back a decent amount of production, 64%, which ranks 18th nationally. That includes Baird Bachmeier, who was freshman quarterback last year, and he is third in the Big 12 in QBR last year as a freshman. So very solid guy to get back. Uh, the offense is going to be interesting around him though, because LJ Martin rushed for 1,300 yards. He's back. They got 4 returning guys on that offensive line, including Bruce Mitchell, who's an all-conference center. And they add a blue chip transfer, Paki Finau from Washington to that unit also. But who's Bear going to be throwing to? That's going to be interesting. It's a lot of new guys. Their top 3 pass catchers are all gone. That's an area of question. The defense, though, has 10 of 16 guys back who had 200 plus snaps last year. Big thing that changes there, though, is new defensive coordinator, Kelly Papinga, who was a former assistant on the team. The big ones for them again, Utah with the Holy War. They avoid Texas Tech, and then they do have an out-of-conference game with Notre Dame that I think should be interesting. So those are notes that I had on BYU. What do you think of the Cougars this year?
Um, I will always hate a quarterback that wears a non-quarterback number.
What is he, number
Um,
47 or something
yeah,
like
it's
that?
ridiculous. I'm sorry, you can't. It's weird. Like I was even playing like the new college football game, which that has a whole bunch of things with just the fact they're putting microtransactions in a dynasty mode that is meant to for offline. But that's besides the point. I got on a tangent there. But anyways, what I'm saying is it just looks ugly. All right. When you're like watching a game and like, oh, it's a wildcat formation. Oh, wait, why is this guy playing quarterback the whole game? All right. It's one thing if you're like in a little league, but you're not. No, I think BYU is always the interesting team because I feel like they're the team that everyone kind of forgets about is in the Big 12. And also the fact that they're like good. Like I think it's
They're
like that.
quietly good,
Yeah,
like a lot,
it's like the
actually.
forgetful team that's good, right? And has a chance to compete every year. And again, it's the Big 12. Like, okay, if you put every team outside of Texas Tech in the Big 10 or in the SEC, all these teams are like at the middle of the pack or below, right? Like none of these teams are really going to be competing at that level, except like Texas Tech, just because of the money and the way they can kind of recruit. But yeah, I think BYU has they have shoes to fill, right? They have things they have to figure out. They have to figure out how to win the big game. I think that's the biggest thing for this team.
Yeah.
How do you win the big game? You have proven over and over again that you can't win the big game, no matter if it's regular season, postseason. So we'll have to see if they adapt to that. I don't think they're going to be as good this year. Texas Tech, I feel like they're going to end up being like they'll finish the regular season at like 12, 11 and 1, something around there. I think BYU finishes in that 10 and 2 range. Is again there at the end fighting for. I do think it's going to end up being like Texas Tech and Utah for the title, the Big Ten title, but BYU is also going to be there at the end as well.
Yeah, a big reason why BYU didn't get a lot of love from the polls is because even against the lesser teams, they were winning by like slim margins, like single
Exactly.
digits, 1 score games, and then yeah, when they do finally play a big time team like Texas Tech, they get
They're kind
boat
of like the
raced.
Penn State of the Big 12. They're kind of like the Penn State
Hmm.
of the Big 12. They'll score points when they need to. They'll beat the teams they have to. Maybe not always look good, but they'll beat the teams. But then when they face the good teams, like in Penn State's case, when they face Michigan, Ohio State, Indiana in recent times, they've looked really bad. And so I think that's kind of what I think about BYU is they're kind of the Penn State of the Big 12, or the modern day Clemson of the Big 12.
And maybe that's why Penn State tried to get Kalani Sitake, their head coach, because
They
they
wanted to
saw
be
the
like it.
similarities. He'd fit right in
Exactly.
there at Happy Valley. Uh, you mentioned Utah though, and we got to talk about them. Big Utah podcast over here at the Baseline.
It's because for
Uh,
some reason they just trap you in their little grip.
I just love the consistency year in, year out. We were just talking about BYU more in recent memory, like being quietly good. Utah's been like quietly good for a very long time. And a big reason for that has been because of Kyle Whittingham, but he is gone now. So it's the Morgan Scalley era over
Which is
at
basically the
Utah.
same thing because he's been there for 15 years.
He was named like the head coach in waiting 5 years ago or
Yeah, a
something like
while
that. So
ago.
he's been or in this program for quite a long time too and knows how things work. But even still, taking over as head coach is different. And like we were saying, they didn't hold up too well. They lost bad to Texas Tech. They didn't get by BYU, but still a solid season, finishing top 20 in defense last year, and they actually
Mhm.
were first in red zone touchdown rate. A big part of that was because of quarterback Devin Dampier, who was pretty athletic, running the football, and Jason Beck, who was his offensive coordinator at his previous school. Uh, and they won 11 of the games last year, and 10 of them were by double digits. But Jason Beck took off with Kyle Whittingham to go to Michigan, so they're going to have a new guy calling plays over here now. That'll be Kevin McGivern, who was actually at Utah State. We'll see what kind of a offense he runs with. He is going to have with him senior receiver Braden Pagan, one of the bigger producers for that Utah State team. One thing that is going to be interesting to watch for with the Utes is the offensive line lost all five of their starters, and that of course includes Spencer Fano, who took off for the NFL, and then Caleb Lemieux.
I
But
mean,
if we
two
know
good
one,
tackles.
yeah, really good tackles. But if there's one thing we know about Utah is they seem to just grow and manufacture these offensive linemen. So they've earned at least my expectation that they'll find guys to replace. But nevertheless, chemistry is really important on an offensive line too. So even if you have talent, five new starters is going to be an adjustment. But you do have Dan Pierre back, and you have Wayshawn Parker back, who rushed for over 900 yards last year. Those are the only two on offense that started more than 5 games last year. So the whole offense is going to look really different over here, but still would expect running the football to be important to them. Uh, Over on defense, Scally decided to promote Colton Swan, who was the linebacker coach, the defensive coordinator. Uh, Top four defensive linemen are gone, and three of their best four secondary members are also gone. So it's going to be a new look over there also. Uh, the one area that will be a strength is linebacker Jonathan Hall and Jackson Benet return over there. And like a lot of these other teams in the Big 12, the schedule like still lines up for them to do all right. You got Arkansas out of conference, then you got Houston, who I think could be sneaky good, and we'll talk about them in a bit. And then BYU with the Holy War, 65th in strength of schedule. So if there was a year for Utah to, I guess, deal with a lot of this change, this would be the year to do it. We don't have a whole lot of big games on the schedule, but I do trust Utah to be able to continue to play well, but I just don't think that this year is the year to contend. Like you said, I do think there's a gap, but just Utah's reputation, I'm going to go ahead and include them in this conversation anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think Utah is probably going to be that team that does go over BYU. I think Utah ends up finishing, 10-2 or in that range as well. Um, I I like Devin Dampier. I've always been high on him. I think since he was at New Mexico, just the way he's such a freak athlete. And again, will he be a quarterback in the NFL? Probably not. He might end up being like an XFL guy or go to play here in Europe. Um, or be like a different position, maybe more of that spot hybrid kind of QB guy. Um, I think that the passing needs to improve for him, but again, the new offensive line, he might need to use his feet a lot more this year. And it's a guy who's ran for nearly 1,000 yards before, so use his feet, right? That's what you got to do defensively. That yeah, you're right. They got to replace a lot, and if we've learned one thing in our time covering these kind of conferences and stuff, is that um, as long as you can keep a defense consistent, that's the one thing that can kind of keep you in games always, right? You can have a really bad offense, but it can kind of keep you in games. And look at Iowa, for example. But Utah, I don't care who the DC is, like it's going to be the same defense, it's going to be the same type of the way they coach it, and they always have good defense. Even if their talent is not good, even if they're replacing a lot of guys, they always have a great defense. So for me, Utah, I think just finishes above BYU and kind of in that 10-win range.
All right, so for this next segment, we're going to get into like that big second tier,
Very
but
annoying tier.
yeah, I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and let you tee this off. From that second tier after Utah,
Yes.
BYU, and Texas Tech, who do you think's most likely to come out
Finish fourth.
and contend with those guys? Well, finish fourth or even like because the Big
I,
12 is always surprising.
yeah. You know, this one's interesting because like I wanted to say like kind of a dark horse in Oklahoma State just because North Texas is basically all of their offense and their head coach went to Oklahoma State. I don't know if you've looked at
Yeah,
the transfers, it's basically like their whole offense
there's a lot
went
of
to
them.
Oklahoma State. I don't think so. I still think that that's just a developmental place right now, just trying to build it up. I would love to say Cincinnati, but they're just going down the wrecking ball of everything, plus the cheating and everything on top of that. It's a terrible place right now for football. Um, but I'm gonna kind of go with a surprise here. I'm gonna go with Houston, right? Like I think Arizona could also be up there. I think Noah Fafita is probably finally showing the thing we thought he was like 3 years ago. He's finally, I think, kind of being that guy. But Houston to me is one of those teams that I think could really um do some damage, I guess. Just they have like I believe they have a 5-star QB coming in, um, who again, I'm just saying sometimes you just need to have a little spice to the fire. And for me, I think Houston can be up there competing. So I don't really have a team. I think it's like between Houston and Arizona, but I think it just depends on what team is kind of. If you look at their schedule compared to like their offensive guys, defensive guys, how can they come around? But I a lot of people have said Kansas State. I'm not as high on Kansas State. I think we've given Avery Johnson plenty of time to be that quarterback, and I just don't think he's ever kind of panned out. And I don't think they have the talent on either side of the ball to compete. But I do think Houston and Arizona have that because of the NIL, because of being able to do that to compete with those top three teams.
Houston is who I had also, and ever since they came to the Big 12, it's been a rude awakening for them. They've gone 4-8 in 2 seasons. The first one was the end of the Dana Holgerson era, and then the first one was Willie Fritz year one. But then year two, which was last year, he came out and he won 10 games. They've
Yeah.
been building some momentum in recruiting. They've been building some momentum in NIL. I mean, Houston, I mean, that's one of the biggest cities in the United States.
Yeah.
It's Texas, so you know they love football over there. So I think that they're one of those teams that's going to uh, be a sleeper to win this conference. And like you said, Keyshawn Henderson, not only five
Yeah.
star, number one quarterback, period, in the 2026 class is on the roster right now. Uh, We'll be backing up Connor Wegman, who returns after rushing for 800 yards last year, throwing for 2,700, and gets 36 total touchdowns. Uh, so he returns at quarterback two. Uh, but just a little say something a little bit about Willie Fritz. He's pretty much been able to win at every level he's been at. He's won national titles at the JUCO level. He's played national titles at the FCS level, and then he made Tulane to the G5 power that it is right now. And now he's at Power Four going into year three right here after winning 10 games in year two. Um, so they add three all-conference guys to the offensive line also. They added Trent Walker, who was the leading receiver at Oklahoma State. And then Micaiah Hughes from Tulane had 27 career rush yards. He joins the team too. And then on the defensive side, you got Kentrell Webb, Jordan Allen, and Will James all returning to the secondary, and they added Javian White from Tulane and Jalen Mayo from Stephen F. Austin, so they should be pretty solid back there. The front six has Brandon Mack, LaTravion McCutcheon, Sion Fatul, and Miles Parker all over there. They should be pretty tough in the trenches. Offensive line and defensive line should be competitive. And we've seen from teams like Miami that even if you're maybe not the best at the skill positions. Like if you can win in the trenches, that's gonna uh,
Yeah, exactly.
carry over pretty well. So the schedule, they're gonna have to beat some of the big boys. They got Utah and Texas Tech both over there. They also got Kansas State, who's kind of in that uh, hopefully sleeper tier with them. But 65% returning production, just like Texas Tech. So Houston should again field a pretty good team. They quietly won 10 games last year. I don't know if I mean, if you're in college football like we are, you know that. But if you're just kind of casually listening, you probably have no idea that Houston won double digits last year.
Exactly. I mean, that's why I'm saying they're a team that is dying to have that competition.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and get into some of those other teams that you mentioned too, just some notes that I jotted down. So
Yeah.
Arizona, sneaky 9 wins last year.
Yeah, they were
We
really
saw
good last year.
we saw Jed Fish build them up. He took off for Washington, and then they fell off a little bit. But they're building back now. They still have Noah Fifita over there. He'll be a fourth-year starter, and they should have a solid defense coming back also. That returns Chase Kennedy at edge, Tay Brown at linebacker, Javian Cole and Gavin Hunter in the secondary for 60% returning production overall on that roster. And then they added Everett Russo Jr., linebacker from Memphis, and Tyrese Boss, a corner from Wyoming. So Brent Brennan entering year three has a decent Arizona squad. It's just going to be tough as far as the schedule goes, especially the last four games. They got Texas Tech, TCU, Utah, and Kansas State, and they also got BYU early on in the season. So they could be one of those teams that ends up being better than what their record shows. But if you want to be one of these teams that wins a conference, you're probably going to have to beat some of the better teams to do it. So Arizona's going to have a couple cracks at some of the best. Kansas State, you mentioned. Last year was like that year that we were saying that sleeper pick, right? Avery Johnson's coming off of, a season where he's shown some flash, and then they just couldn't run the football. And he was also trying to be a pocket passer, and it
Which
didn't
he's
work out.
not. Just run
Yeah.
the ball, man.
Yeah,
That's
you're
what you're good
athletic.
at.
Take advantage of that. And Colin Klein is taking over as head coach now, who was a quarterback for Kansas State when we were kids, that was a running quarterback,
Absolutely. It was really
was a
good.
Heisman finalist, I believe, led Kansas State to their second conference title ever, and then was an offensive coordinator a few years ago when they won their third ever. And he's been calling plays at Texas A&M the last couple of years, but this seems like a really good fit for a head coach and a program. So would love to see Colin Klein do well over there. And I guess just use Avery Johnson to his strengths. If anybody would know anything about that, it would be Colin Klein. So they definitely got to get better at running the football than they did. Not really good at third down last year in those short yard situations. So they got to do better. Uh, and then Oklahoma State, I'll talk about them too. They're going to have a couple hard games too. They got Oregon out of conference and then Houston and Texas Tech in conference. But
Oh,
Eric Morris, like you said, North Texas coach, brings in Drew Mestemaker, his
who's
quarterback who threw
amazing.
4,300 yards last year. Yeah,
Former walk-on.
very strong offense last year. Uh, but again, it's a G5 squad adjusting to a Power 4 program. But we've seen this is kind of like that Kurt Signetti uh, plan, I guess, where he brought a lot of JMU guys to Indiana, and we saw Indiana do better. So, I mean, Oklahoma State can't really get any worse than the 1-11 they were last year. It
Yeah.
was embarrassing.
The fact that we're even talking about them in this spot is impressive.
Yeah, yeah, so it's one of those. I think Oklahoma State is getting a lot of that attention for that reason. Like all those guys coming over, and everybody's expecting, a really high-powered Oklahoma State offense again, like we're used to seeing with all those Mike Gundy teams. But like we said, Kansas State, Arizona, I think Houston all got some chances to do that. Uh, I'm gonna go ahead and mention a couple quick
Baylor's an
notes on
interesting
some other
one.
teams here.
Baylor's
Baylor
an
is an
interesting
interesting
one.
one.
Yeah, because they could be good, but also I could see them finishing like 6-6.
So Dave Aranda probably should have been fired at this
He
point,
should
but
have been fired about 2 years ago.
because of all the changes going on in the administration, they kind of forgot to do that. So he's still here, and he's a defensive guy, but they lost all the games that they didn't score 30 points in. Last year they were awesome special teams wise. Sawyer Robertson leading the offense, but the defense just couldn't get any stops. And they're on their third. He's on his third defensive coordinator, I think, in 7 or 8 seasons. He's been there for a little while, and he's had some good runs, but he's had a couple disappointing seasons recently, and Baylor expects better. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and throw you. It might not be this year, but maybe it's something that we could see in a couple seasons. Is West Virginia, Ben? I couldn't find the episode that I heard this on, but for all of you that don't know, Rich Rodriguez is back with the Mountaineers. Last year he brought in about 80 new players. Uh, this year again he's bringing in 80 new players, so it's a hard reset, but the rankings are all better. So I couldn't find the clip, so I can't confirm this for sure. But I believe Pate said at the time that they had the 62nd ranked portal class and the 48th recruiting class in Rich Rod's first year, and this year both of those ranked top 20. So it's all new players, which we've seen that can crash and burn or it can be good, but it's a higher caliber of player they're bringing in. And he's also got Cam Cook, who led the nation in rushing last year at
Yeah.
Jacksonville State, coming in. He's got a couple guys to block for him, also from
And some
that
great
place.
formations. Like he's got freaking a power freaking pistol. There's like 3D linemen in the backfield. It's phenomenal. Like I just something about that just makes me laugh.
Michael Hawkins is going to have to be better, though. He's the quarterback that filled in relief for John Mateer last year with
Yeah,
Oklahoma, and he's a blue chip recruit, but we got to see
super
better
fast.
play. They're going to have a handful of tough games, too, this year. They got to play Texas Tech, Utah, and Houston, and then they got Virginia out of conference. So their win total is 5.5. I think they could exceed that, but again, it's one of those things where it's like maybe they could be that sleeper pick to win the conference in another year or two, but we'll see how this season goes.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
I jotted down TCU for the second tier. They got back-to-back 9-win seasons, and of course, everybody remembers the national championship run from a little while ago. But
What do you mean? I
they,
forgot. It got plummeted. I forgot. I don't remember it. Got buried
yeah,
in the
that that
ground that
that
game.
national championship that Georgia won, it was against them. No Josh Hoover. Instead, you'll have Jaden Craig, who is at Harvard and has 5,300 career pass yards and 48 touchdowns in 21 games.
Smart guy.
Yeah. Calling the plays will be Gordon Samus, who only had one interception on UConn last year. It was the most mistake-free offense that program has had in the last 22 years. Uh, they'll play Kansas State and Arizona, BYU, Texas Tech, and Utah. So again, it's like a harder schedule for them to
Yeah.
play. Um, Arizona State's another one of those where it's like, okay, I think we're in a new window now. We're past the Cam Scadaboo, Sam Lovett, Jordan Tyson era. Now, who's going to be coming in next? Because only 11 of the 34 players that played 200 snaps last year are actually returning. And all five guys that led them on offense and yards from scrimmage are gone. And like we said, Sam Levitt's gone. He's playing at LSU now. So I
I think
guess
that's gonna be the
what
best thing for them, by the way. Sam Levitt leaving, I think, is gonna be the best thing for them because I just think
we heard a lot of
he was
locker room
causing
problems
more
potentially.
problems. Like, dude, when this is the thing about the NIL that I've said for a while. I love it. I love guys getting paid. They deserve it. All their stuff gets sold all the time. They deserve it. But NIL gets in guys' heads, especially these quarterbacks and these skill positions. And guys don't want to wait. They don't want to be patient. They don't want to be developed. And again, that's why I think makes Ohio State and Georgia and some of these schools so impressive is the fact that they are developing. They're keeping guys in the head like, hey, I'm going to argue with you about my NIL. They're like, okay, see ya. We don't need you. Right. And I think that's what more teams need to do. And I think that's what I guess in a way for Arizona State, I'm kind of excited to see what they're going to be like because I think they're starting to get to that point where like, okay, you want to transfer, go ahead, don't care.
Yeah, yeah. We've also seen Kenny Dillingham be pretty pro player in helping some of his backups find new schools. This is a different situation though, and not really one that he's front and center on trying to help
No.
his starting quarterback find a new spot. It's like you said, I think it's better that he moved on. And filling in will be either Cutter Boley, who was a freshman quarterback at Kentucky last year, or Mikey Keene, who's been a transfer from Fresno State and Michigan. Uh, they got the hardest schedule in the Big 12, though. It's 28th nationally as far as strength of
Mm,
schedule. They got Texas A&M out of conference. In conference, they got Texas Tech, Arizona, BYU, and Kansas State.
yeah.
So again, it's a new era. We'll see how Kenny Dillingham resets and if he can continue to, I guess, work that magic over there. We got to talk about. You want to talk about a little bit about Colorado?
I mean, I'm going to talk about. I mean, I thought we were going to talk about Colorado and Iowa State being the two worst teams in this conference, and probably being the two worst by a mile. Like, I think Colorado will win. I have them winning like 2 to 3 games, and Iowa State winning 1 game. Like, I think that's how bad both these teams are going to be. It's not even going to be
Yeah.
close
Colorado won 3 games last year, and they're already on another hard reset again with 40 some
because
transfers
the
coming
guy
in.
does not want to recruit high schoolers, and I'm telling people you can't just recruit transfers.
Well, the
It
other thing
doesn't
is
work.
the good recruits that he's getting are all leaving because they're not getting
Exactly.
developed. Like the one that's stuck around again is Juju Lewis, who was a four-star
Yeah, because they're
quarterback,
paying
and
him 4 million probably a year.
they're probably paying him a good amount of money. But I thought it was interesting too. Big 12 Media Days, there's a quote that's gone a little semi-viral. He said that last year he was basically just playing backyard football, free balling, and this year he's actually sitting down and starting to do some film study on defenses. And it's like that's such a wild thing to admit. Like you
Well,
guys aren't watching film at Colorado. Like I mean, it looks like it,
for
but
the documentary, man, they got to make sure they have all the film for the documentary.
the only film they're watching is the documentary film. Oh my gosh. They had like 30 seconds for like, okay, guys, let's like rewind and fast forward on a game that we just played, so it can look like we're watching film, and then that'll just be the B-roll that they use for our film study. But
Hot take, and it's probably not much of a hot take. Hot take: he gets fired this year, Sanders, or
can
he
they
walks
afford
away.
that buyout though?
Or no, I think he just walks away because I don't think his ego could handle him getting fired by a university that he's basically said that I love this university. I care about this university. I'm like, dude, if you cared, you would put way more time into like recruiting and to like traveling and trying to do those things rather than just hoping they come to campus and you can sell them with your, all your who you are, I guess.
Well, not that I necessarily believe in this case, but let me go ahead and make the case for why Colorado will win more than 3 games. The transfers that they are bringing in are at least they're more dogs than what they've typically
Yeah.
gotten. Like Danny Scooter, I think is where it all starts. He led the nation last year with over 1,200 receiving yards from San Jose State. They also got Cam Perry coming in, who had 900 receiving yards at Miami, Ohio, and then DeAndre Moore Jr. had over 500 over at Texas. That's who Juju will be throwing to. Another criticism that we've had on this podcast of Colorado is not being big in the trenches, no
Yeah.
running game, quarterback always getting sacked.
They look small.
They got 3 Power 4 conference starters coming in. I think and then 4 other veteran guys. Some of those names include Leon Bell from Cal, Taj White from Rutgers, Bo Hughley from Georgia, Javen Richardson from Missouri. And then on the defensive side, they got Boo Carter, who was a pretty highly ranked recruit that Tennessee got at safety, but he joins the team now. Leona LaFou at linebacker from Texas, Creed Thomas, a corner from Notre Dame, Gideon LePron, linebacker from Bowling Green. So I think the quality of transfer that they're getting this year is better, but I'm still with you. I'm surprised that Prime is back coaching because I thought with all the health issues he had last year and with them falling off with 3 wins, it was a perfect excuse to leave since Shador and Travis Hunter were gone, and that was really the only reason they had any success with the Buffaloes. But he's back, and they got more transfers, and there's, I guess, better quality guys coming in, but it's still Colorado, and I don't believe in
He's
their
got to
ability to
coach.
develop
That's the
anybody.
problem. He's
Yeah,
got
you
to
got to be able to
coach.
coach. Got to be able to coach.
Yeah.
And then Iowa State, like you mentioned,
It's
Matt
just mainly because
Campbell,
of the coach change and they
Matt
have to
Campbell. Oh,
replace
and
so
then
many
like the
guys.
mass exodus, man. Like
Yeah.
55 guys transferred out of that program,
Yeah.
and I think it's Jimmy Rogers who's taken over. He won an FCS title with South Dakota State, improved Washington State last year in the one season he was there, but Iowa State's hard to win at. Matt Campbell won 72 games in 10 seasons, got the only 2 top 15 finishes in program history, and he's gone now. He got the fans invested. There were a lot more ticket sales, a lot more views on Iowa State, but I really think that it's going to be hard to keep the ship over there, regardless of who was taking over. Iowa State's
Absolutely.
just really hard to win at.
I agree 100% for sure.
Couple other quick hitters, I think, on some of the other programs. UCF, they got Scott Frost back last year. We'll see what he looks like in year 2. Kansas, finally moving on from Jaden Daniels, or Jalen Daniels, I should say. Lance Leipold looks like he's going to try to be a lifer at Kansas. I think he's pretty much lost any momentum he had of maybe leveling up and getting one of those big jobs. They've gone 5-7 the last 2 seasons, which is decent at Kansas considering their football history, but again, it's hard to win over there, and they had that one flash in the pan. They really haven't been able to replicate that for one reason or another. Cincinnati, Scott Satterfield's had a pretty hard time. It looked like he was going to have a little bit of promise last year with the Brandon Sorsby season, but we'll see what happens legal
Yeah.
wise if they get
Exactly.
any kind of punishment or anything comes about, what they knew and what they didn't know about that. And Sorsby's also gone now anyway, so it's like, what do they do now that they don't have a football player like that playing quarterback? Um, is there anybody else in this conference that we didn't make mention of? Let
Not
me double
really.
check.
No, I think we covered everyone. Yeah, we
We
covered everyone.
Yeah, let me check here. Just double check. Big 12.
Yep. Texas Tech, BYU, Utah, Houston, Arizona, TCU, Kansas State, Arizona State, Oklahoma State, Baylor, UCF, Kansas, Cincinnati, West Virginia, Colorado, Iowa State. Covered everyone.
Yeah. Think yep, that is everybody. So, oh man, Big 12. Yeah, gotta give them credit. They're never gonna have any of like the national championship
No,
contenders over there. But if you're just a college
it's a
football
fun one
fan,
though. It's fun to watch.
it is a fun conference. That's why I
Yeah,
was gonna lay out. If you crave like the mid 2000s nostalgia, like in what college football used to be like before, like everybody told you the playoff games are the only games that matter and stuff like that. Like this is a conference that everybody can love, and we've seen it years and years before. Like Arizona State, they were projected to finish last, and then they won the conference. Last year, they finished like more middle of the pack, just a lot of injuries, and then Texas Tech comes out with the money. We'll see if Texas Tech continues. Like as long as the wins come in, the money will continue to flow in over there. And then I guess the consistent guys like we were saying with Utah and BYU. Uh, but then a couple new faces that could potentially make a run: Houston, Arizona, uh, Kansas State, Oklahoma State.
yeah,
Now we'll see what happens. Conference is going to be interesting.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, that leaves us with two down. All right, one NFL, one college. We'll let you know. We won't even say who's next. You have to tune in next week to figure out what is next and who we talk about next, because that just makes it a little more fun and a little more out there. But down below, I would like you to put two things. One thing, who do you think's win the NFC West? Do you truly think that the Seahawks could go back to back? Could they win the West, or will it be the Rams? Which is a very common thought from everyone. And then the Big 12. Does Texas Tech run away with it, or is there someone else? Give us your rankings. You can list them down there, 1 through 16. Who do you got? And I know that's kind of a fun thing for us to do. Again, this is just the beginning of our previews for the next few weeks. We're going to be previewing every single conference in the big in the college football. We have to decide whether we consider Pac-12 a Power Four or not. Not really. It's like a group. It's weird. Anyways, we'll figure all that out as we go. But I'm glad you guys tuned in. If you've loved watching and listening on YouTube, click that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. If you love listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, let us know. Share it with your friends and family. Enjoy this lovely weekend of lovely warm weather that we all love so much here in July. And also next week is the All-Star game for the baseball for MLB. So go watch the home run derby. I know it's not as good as it used to be when we were kids,
They're going to
but
have new changes though that I
yeah,
think will be interesting. Did
yeah,
you
new
see the
changes.
rule?
But yeah, I did, but it still won't be the same. It won't feel the same as seeing a guy hit
Yeah. I think the
50,000
one thing that
bombs.
will be better though is that it's not just going to be a stamina contest. Like we've seen some guys
Yeah,
just rip a bunch of bombs in one round and then they're tired and don't win the national or not the national, but like the final
yeah,
round. So having, I think it's just the 20 swings they're getting, I think is going to give more guys that actually are ripping it a better chance. So you can still take pitches. That's something that you couldn't do. That's why like the accuracy of your pitcher was so important. Like if your guy wasn't throwing you strikes, you're just having to try to chase bad balls since you had the
yeah,
time limit. So I think this gets us the best of both worlds.
yeah.
We'll see
So it'll
how we'll
be
see if it
fun.
plays out though.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So yeah, tune in that next week for that, and then again we'll have our preview. We'll let you know next week when you tune in who it will be. And until next time, we'll see ya.